When you hear lie detection, do you immediately picture a high-tech machine covered in electrodes beeping ominously? The truth is, over 100 years ago, long before electronic devices, psychologists could already pinpoint lies with stunning precision, and the tool they used. It was so simple, it just involved chatting with you. Today, we're taking a journey back to the 19th century. We're going to see how psychologists transformed an ancient parlor game, the word association test, into a deadly effective mind-reading technique, uncovering the deepest secrets hidden in the human subconscious. This is Agora EU. Welcome to my channel. Let's dive in. Our story begins with three legendary figures, and at first, this wasn't even about catching criminals. In 1879, Charles Darwin's brilliant cousin, Francis Galton, had a sudden flash of inspiration while walking through London. He decided to fix his gaze on every object he passed and record the very first thought that popped into his head. He was stunned to find that many of these thoughts sprang from his earliest childhood memories and were completely beyond his control. For Galton, this was a mental inventory, a way to see what goods were actually stocked. In the warehouse of our brains, in that very same year, the father of psychology, Wilhelm Wundt, brought this game into the laboratory. But Wundt was more like an engineer, trying to draw a circuit diagram of the mind. He was obsessed with logic. If I say black, you say white. If I say big, you say small. He was studying how the words in our brains are connected, like mapping out a city's road network. But the person who truly turned this game into a weapon was our third figure. In 1904, the master of psychology, Carl Jung, entered the scene. The first two giants focused on what you answered. But Jung was different. He was a hunter, and his weapon was a stopwatch. He discovered that the crucial point wasn't what you said, but how long you stalled before saying it. In Jung's hands, this simple game became a mind detector. If telling the truth is like a flowing river, then a lie is a stone hidden just beneath the surface, that split second of hesitation, that moment your brain seems too short-circuit, that was the ghost Jung was hunting. These three men were playing the same game, but with entirely different rulebooks. It was Jung who introduced precise timing, finally giving this simple word game the practical power to detect lies. But explaining it isn't nearly as good as trying it for yourself. Before I reveal Jung's secret to catching lies, I want to invite you to experience this experiment personally. The rules are very simple. I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to instantly, immediately, and instinctively come up with a corresponding word in your mind. The key is don't think, don't edit, just respond. Ready? Let's start. The first word is sky. You probably thought of blue or cloud almost instantly, right? It was effortless. Okay, now listen carefully. The second word is father. All right, the experiment is over. Just now, when you heard the word father, did you feel your brain slightly stutter or lag? Or maybe a word popped into your head, but you felt it wasn't appropriate, so you forced it back down and swapped it for a nicer sounding one? If Carl Jung were sitting across from you at that moment, your secret would already be out. Jung believed that it is precisely this sub-second stutter that betrays the complex buried in your subconscious. So why do we stutter? Jung's theory is fascinating. First, lying requires energy. Telling the truth is an automated program that runs on its own. But lying requires you to write a new script in your brain, right on the spot. When you hear a keyword, like murder weapon in a police interrogation, your brain has to do two things simultaneously. First, it has to suppress the real, automatic association, like I killed him. Then it has to frantically fabricate a false, safe association, like I don't know. No matter how fast this process is, it takes time. Jung called this tiny pause the response latency. You might think you've covered it up perfectly, but that momentary hesitation is the sound of you stepping on an emotional landmine. Second, the body doesn't lie. Even if your mouth is under your complete control, your subconscious is screaming. It feels fear. Your palms will start to sweat and your heart rate will accelerate. These physical reactions, which Jung also observed, became the prototype for the galvanic skin response test used in modern polygraphs. Let us look at one of Jung's most famous real-world cases to see this in action. Back in the hospital where Jung worked, a wallet went missing. Suspicion fell on 3 nurses, but there was no concrete evidence, so Jung decided, let's play a game. He created a seemingly ordinary list of words: table, sky, bread, and so on. These words were harmless, so the suspects relaxed, letting their guard down and answering quickly and easily. Then, suddenly, Jung threw out the bait. The word was cupboard. In that instant, the first 2 nurses reacted just as fast as before, immediately replying with words like clothes. But the 3rd nurse, she paused. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed. Her breathing became rapid, and finally she stammered out a word that didn't make any sense at all. Jung knew the fish had taken the bait. Later, as her psychological defenses crumbled under this pressure, the nurse confessed to the theft. This case caused a sensation at the time. It proved that a psychological experiment could reveal truths that even a formal judicial interrogation could not. Jung's discovery wasn't just for catching thieves. It completely changed the field of psychology. Before Jung, if someone couldn't answer a question, people just assumed they were stupid or distracted. But Jung realized these stutters weren't random. Why is it that when you hear cloud, you're perfectly fine, but when you hear mother, you get stuck? Jung understood that these words were acting like fishhooks, snagging on something heavy and hidden beneath the surface of the conscious mind. He named this cluster of psychological content with strong emotional color beneath the surface a complex. Jung had a very hardcore quote, "Complexes can have us." He didn't say we have complexes. He said the complexes have us. You can imagine a complex as a kind of second personality that's parasitic within you. When your inferiority complex or your sense of guilt gets triggered by a specific word or situation, in that moment, the rational you goes offline. The awakened complex rushes up and hijacks the steering. We love your brain. That's why, in that split second, you short-circuited. It wasn't until 1921, when more precise polygraph machines appeared, that this ancient word association test gradually retired from the stage of criminal investigation. But the revelation it left us with is still absolutely mesmerizing. In this society so full of disguises, language can lie, and our facial expressions can be managed, but that subconscious pause we make in the face of truth? That is forever the secret path leading into the depths of the human soul. The body is always more honest than the brain. If you like this kind of content that deconstructs human nature through a psychological lens, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm Agora AU, and I'll see you in the next video.